Excellent. Thank you, Mara, for sharing the handout. I will post a couple of links as well as we go in the chat. The first one is this, which is to my blog, which is a detailed step-by-step of some of the things I'm going to show you here. So this takes you through one of the processes that I'm going to demonstrate, but I also want to show some additional things. Now, I can't actually create a poll. Mara, if you are able to create a poll, I would be really interested in knowing who has access to Office 365 via their institution. If a poll isn't possible, I'll just ask in the chat. So, okay, it's now 15:05. Let's make a start. And I'll put the bits up on screen that are relevant. Right. So, this session is about opportunities for using new technologies, and it's a very rapidly evolving field. About 2 years ago, whenever I was doing any introductions to qualitative data analysis software, there would usually be a lot of people asking about doing transcription. Transcription takes a long time, and the experience I tended to have with students was they spend an enormous amount of time transcribing and then get to the end and realize that there were kind of no points for it. Nobody went, well done, you've done a great transcript. They're just like, right, get on with the analysis. And the question usually was, is there anything that will do it for me? And the answer, sadly, then was no. And about 2 years ago, this started to change, and it has changed so rapidly. So this is about working with how can MAXQDA work with automated transcription. So it's focused on systems integration and processes, not so much just about MAXQDA, but how do you get data ready for MAXQDA? But I really want to focus on the analytic side more than the technical detail. Because the technical detail of exactly which terms to put in a search and replace are better done in a blog where you can copy and paste the text. This is about principles. And I think one of the really key things is to think about how MAXQDA can bring analytic insight into the process of transcribing. Now, auto-transcription right now, there is free transcription in Word Online. If you have access to MS Teams, Microsoft Teams, and you're doing your interviewing through that, which is the case for a lot of educational institutions, then there is also automatic transcription of your recordings there. There is also transcription with Zoom if you have an institutional license and it's turned. So that's what I'm looking at in this. There are other tools available, and several people have been posting about plugins that are available that will generate automatic transcriptions. I anticipate that if those generate a VTT file, which is the standard file now for transcripts, this will work with those other tools. So there are multiple options, and they should be free. So if we go and have a look at Microsoft Word. This is Microsoft Word Online. And under Microsoft Word, there's Dictate and there's Transcribe. And if you click on Transcribe, you can choose the language. Now, at the moment, the help says it's only available in English American, but the reality is it's available in a lot of other languages. So I'm going to choose German, and I'm going to click to upload some audio that I grabbed off the BBC Learn German website, and you will see I add this to Microsoft Word and it goes through and transcribes the audio file. So this is free. There used to be a limit of around 5 hours per month, but for educational users, they have removed that limit. Now, because I'm demonstrating live, this is almost inevitably going to go wrong, but it does usually work, honest. So while that's getting on with the transcription, I'll just show you where the other tools are. There we go, it's finished. So that has translated in German. And you can do a basic listening here within Microsoft
Die
Word.
Kohle. Die Mäuse.
So I can edit the name of the speaker, and I can choose to change all of speaker one. Note it labels the speaker. So I could say this is the teacher and tick there. So I've got basic correction of a transcript here. I can then say add to document with speakers and timestamps, and it adds the whole thing in to the document. Let me just zoom that in a bit more. So it has added a timestamp that is usable, it has added a speaker label that is usable, and it has added the transcribed text. This is nearly ready to be brought into MAXQDA, but you will have to do one step, and you need to do this in the desktop app. So if I open Microsoft Word, which inevitably will open on the other screen, I can now bring that into Microsoft Word, and I can do a pretty basic search and replace to say I want to find feature. Key thing here is that it is followed by a paragraph mark, and I want to replace that with a tab and a tab rather than a paragraph mark. If I replace all, that has now standardized the transcript, so it's got the time, the speaker label, de Kohle. Now, for some things in MAXQDA, you do need to add a colon after the word teacher. Should have done that in the previous stage, but I should be okay to do it here. Okay, so I can now save that file. What I haven't done is I haven't chosen to save that to I didn't do a lot of work in Word to correct this. So bear with me, this is always going to go, just chuck it in downloads is always the easiest. So I'll call that BBC German. Now, I didn't choose to correct that in Microsoft Word. The reason being, although there is a good interface in Microsoft Word Online, what it doesn't have is some of the tools that you have within MAXQDA. You can't slow down the playback, and most importantly, you're separated from the analysis environment. This is why I would suggest that you do this. So that's from Microsoft Word, and you can upload any audio recording into it and just generate a transcript. If you have done your interview in Zoom, and Zoom has got transcription turned on, so yesterday I had a chat with Christina Silva, and I recorded that to the cloud, and an audio transcript was generated. So I can download that audio transcript, and I can download the video. Now that comes down as a VTT file. The same happens in Microsoft Teams. So also yesterday I had a chat with Christina in Microsoft Teams, again in Microsoft Teams, if you go to edit the video in Stream, you can download the file as a VTT file. This is all about to change in Microsoft Teams, but I've seen a preview of the new version, and now it just has a direct download of a VTT file. If you look at a VTT file, this is the standard format for transcripts, okay? It's a bit of a mess, to put it mildly. The VTT file from Zoom has labeled the speaker, which is great, but it's still a bit of a weird timestamps in it. A friend of mine and colleague of mine was amazing. He did some work creating a converter for VTT files for accessibility reasons. I had a chat with him and he did some amazing work to convert it into one that gets them ready for QDA software. So I'll post that link in the chat. This VTT converter, if I go and grab those files that I just downloaded from Zoom, so anything that can generate a VTT file, and it's not just Zoom or Teams, it's standard. I can go here. Oh, sorry, I've got to choose file, choose the VTT in downloads. Just check that's the VTT, yep. And click convert and download. That has now created a text file that is ready for going into MAXQDA. So all of that weird guff has been stripped out. So that converter is the step of the systems integration that bridges the gap from how do I get this out of Teams to why I can't use this. So that cleaner is there. Now MAXQDA, when I've spoken to them, I think it's on their development plans that they should have a direct import of a VTT in the future. It's just another format to import, and this VTT converter file is up on GitHub, so if anybody wants to develop it further, it's open source, it's open and available. So you then go into MAXQDA and you say, I want to import a transcript with timestamps. So I'm going to grab let's go to BBC Learn German Money. I'm going to open that. And it's going to say, please learn money. Okay, it has brought it in. Now, the key thing here, and this is where I want to come out of the technical stuff, is why do this? Okay, this is way quicker. We've started that out. It's free. If you've got access to Word Online, some of these other things are free or cheap. I'm going to argue that the reasons are the efficiency. Correcting a transcript takes around an hour and a half to 2 hours per hour of audio. Manual transcription can take between 4 and 7 hours to do yourself. Have you ever met anyone who loved those extra 4 hours of transcribing? Have you ever met anyone who goes, I wish I had have had more time doing manual transcription? I haven't. Now, the argument against it that is always wheeled out is closeness. This is like the argument that is often wheeled out about, oh, somehow using software will distance you from your data. I would argue that if you bring in a synchronized transcript, it allows you to become far closer and to explore the nuances that are lost in transcription. Speech rate, loudness, pitch, and rhythm. There's a link there. If you want to go and have a laugh, you can go and try and transcribe the audio from this. I won't play it now, I don't have time. That's key, and that is a very, very powerful analytic reason. If you have a synchronized transcript, you can go back to how somebody said it, not just what they said. And finally, it's this step of integration. You're not I am not proposing that you do automatic transcription and treat it as correct. You are still going to have to listen to this transcript and spend the hour and a half to 2 hours listening to it in detail and correcting it. But if you do that in MAXQDA, you gain an extra level of benefit. So we've looked at how you create the transcript. We've looked at how you import it. Now's the point when you do your correction. So I will also show there is another option to import a transcript with timestamps. Now, if you want it automatically coded for who is speaking, then I can import now. I think I've got this the right way around. This is why you always need to take extreme care when importing stuff. That I have indeed imported timestamp with timestamps. Okay. Via Teams. Okay, and I need to say via Teams open. Now, this is likely to grind to a halt or not happen because I'm trying to do it live. This is why you always have a here's one I created earlier file. So here's one I created earlier. And in this, I've imported that file. Yeah, it's going to stop complaining. Okay, right. I have got a slight challenge. Right, anyway, here we go. I have brought in a file in this exact process as a focus group file. So it is automatically coded based on the speaker being identified. Now, I can click here. I can click on the timestamp and I can listen to it. Automatically created transcripts of research data, or presentation. Now, here are the really strong reasons for bringing it into MAXQDA. Number one, I can slow it down. So you are listening to this slowed down. The difference between correcting with 80% speed and full speed is enormous. I can make a correction. I love this one here. Subtypes of psycho. Subtitles as I go. It could be that you've done your interview. Subtitles as I go. Now, I don't want to lose that because I think that's great. So I am going to go to codes and analysis, and I'm going to go to paraphrase. This is going to take me out of code, but what I really want to do is create a paraphrase for that. Subtypes of psycho. I think I might use this as a title of a blog post about mistranscriptions. I just love it. Okay, I've made a note about it. I've kept the original. Now I can click to correct. So I can now come out of that, go back into correction mode. I've got to come out of paraphrase, click here, and say subtitles as I go. And this is how I would get on with correcting my transcript. So I would still listen, I would still correct everything, I would get to really know the transcript, but I would be able to make analytic notes as I go. And that to me is the real benefit of doing it this way. And this is the benefit you gain. So you are able to write a synopsis, and the synopsis tool in MAXQDA is absolutely fantastic for this, for making these initial notes. And then with the synopsis tool, you can collect those synopses together and start proposing codes for those. I would suggest initial codes you might apply would be potentially reflexive codes, your reactions to the data. So that was a reaction. So I love that mistranslation. You might be noting notable emotion or affect in the audio. And you would also be, these synopses are laying a foundation for the subsequent analysis. So you're paraphrasing, you can code for what are the 3 T's, the tone, the tenor, and the tempo of the language. By having synchronized audio, you can recover these, which link to 3 E's. So that's emotion. Do they sound happy, sad, upset? Engagement. Are they engaged, bored, disinterested? All of those aspects. And what I'm calling enunciation. But this is about, are people speaking clearly? Or are they mumbling? Because that again tells you something. You know, you might have an interview with a boss who goes, this is an absolutely fantastic thing. And someone else goes, well, I would say that, wouldn't they? That enunciation again gives you an indication of that. And that to me is the really strong argument of doing this this way. So it's very rapidly changing. There are some areas where there may still be limits, but I know that Microsoft did announce something about taking the limit off. So that's the end of my presentation bit. I hope that has been interesting and has given you some ideas. I'm now very happy to read through the chat and see which questions there are. I'll also do my little plug, which I always do something like this. If you need to learn MAXQDA, do go and get this book. It's brilliant. So I can't recommend that book highly enough, the qualitative analysis using MAXQDA. It is all about focusing on the analytic principles, not the technology. This has been quite technology-led, but I'm really trying to emphasize what this approach can bring to your analysis rather than, hey, here's new buttons, push. So a couple of questions. How do you remove the limit of 5 hours? I am not sure. There was an announcement from Microsoft about this limit being removed. If it may still be there, of 5 hours. Again, getting this information is quite challenging. We were certainly, I work at Lancaster University and we're a bit of a beta test thing, so we often get some stuff from Microsoft. We might get it earlier than other people. So if it's still got a limit at the moment for educational users, hopefully that is going to go. For the search and replace, the reason for taking out paragraph, because you need to have, with timestamps when you import them, you need to have the timestamp, the speaker and the text on the same line. And if you want to do focus group coding, you need to have the speaker followed by a colon. Again, so it's replacing a set process. I'm documenting that at the moment. I will be putting this up as, I'll try and turn this into something that's a bit better than it is at the moment, of a step-by-step. But yeah, those kind of processes end up with a fairly standard set. This recording, as far as I know, this is being recorded and will be shared. So the transcribe functions in Office, I'm showing you one option for using them. Their accuracy is very high and they have been very, very good. But there are lots of other options. So the Vtt Converter, what that does is it takes a VTT file. So I showed you what a VTT file looks like, which tends to have quite a bit of guff in it. So in this case, it's got a period for a time rather than a single time. Some other VTT files have a lot of additional stuff in them, including things like their percentage reliability of how accurate they think something is. So if you look at this, it has a confidence value given, as well as an incredibly complicated code, and so on. So the Vtt Converter is stripping out all of that stuff and creating a stripped down transcript you can import into MAXQDA. So can you upload an audio file and get it transcribed with Word Online? You can at the moment. There are other tools available with this. What about data security? Essentially, no. This is one of the reasons why we have been looking at Office, because there tends to, if you have the Office 365 agreement with an institution, there is then a data agreement in place. So certainly at my university, there is a data agreement in place with Microsoft for research data, because basically everybody at the university they're writing their reports in Office tools. So the security when using automatic transcribing, this comes down to questions about the data arrangements with your organization. This is something you need to look up and take some responsibility for. If you have, again, I can't say that that these features will be available on every version of Word, but it should be under dictate. So let me just go back to Word Online, and if we go to Word here, under dictate, there is transcribe there. Okay. So thank you for your attention. I think that will be our time coming up. Are there any further questions at this stage? One of the things I haven't really shown is, and it really is a phenomenal tool in MAXQDA. Thank you, Christina, for showing it to me. And that is this paraphrase function. That having done some paraphrases, I can then go to categorize my paraphrases, look at these and propose codes. And it's this ability, I think this is the real power. Not only does it speed up transcription, but it brings analysis back in. And that's a key thing, because your first engagement with audio text, listening to it, that process of immersion, is such a valid moment, an important moment of analytic engagement. And those notes you make can often end up in a different program, or you just don't make notes, or they are separate. So there are certainly several people previously have been recommending, I can't remember who it was recommending a tool that plugs into Zoom and does transcription for you. I'll have to go back to the general reception chat and try and get that information. But yeah, so this is showing you and especially I've seen a lot of people who are doing their interview, all of their interviewing has suddenly moved to Teams or Zoom. So that's where this started, and then that Word transcribe function came out. So I'm trying to stay on top of and ahead of what is a very rapidly moving area. The challenge is the French version may not have it. Microsoft currently says this is only available in English, and then you look and there are loads of other languages available, but the official support says they're not. So it is difficult, but I would suggest it is worth persisting and trying out, just because it can speed it up, but it can get you into analysis and engagement quicker and get you into that process of thinking and documenting what you're doing, rather than focusing on the technicality. Oh, it's just quicker. Quicker isn't better, but more efficient, and therefore giving you time to think is more useful. So thank you all. As I say, this recording should be available, and I will be working up these additional notes and adding some additional bits on my blog. My blog link was posted earlier, and that has got a detailed step-by-step for MAXQDA, starting from Teams or Zoom or any other VTT file. I can post that again. The Word stuff is a bit of a work in progress, and I hope to I'll be keeping my blog up to date as there are further developments.